Wonderful. All right. So welcome everyone. I think maybe I should at least say hi before I jump right into the recording. So of course, I want to say good day to everyone. Name is Dr. Andrew B. Campbell, aka DR.ABC. And of course, I am your instructor, and we're doing this recording. So this is a recording, but we do have two people in the house. Good to see people in the house. We have Brent and we have Claire. And so we have two people in the house, and they have a front row seat to the recording, and also VIP rights afterwards to ask me any questions. So we're going to get right into it. Change management. And what we're doing in this course with change management. And so I'm going to get right into it. So we're at the part of the course where we all just submitted our change, our vision statement, and our change vision statement. And so you'll be getting feedback from that starting tomorrow. I've already set aside some time. So it goes a process, right? Not everybody will get feedback on tomorrow. Some will get in the week, on the weekend, and even next week, because of course it takes a while to go through them all. But I want us to remember that when we're doing, because there were maybe one or a couple of persons who had asked me questions, when we're doing a change vision statement, we don't get confused. Most organizations already have a vision statement. Most organizations already have a vision statement. Many organizations has a mission statement. This one is a change vision statement, which is this would be the change statement, not the organizational vision statement. So this is just a statement you are making about the change process and that what you hope to accomplish. What is it you hope to accomplish in the process? And so I want us to be very mindful of that, and I'm very mindful of what the process looks like and when we get in and get there. So we're going to go right into what I really want to talk about for this particular video, and that is now getting to our second assignment, 2 and 3, which will be come together, and that is going to be your force field analysis and your power analysis. Force field analysis and your power analysis. And I want to take us into the textbook for a little bit because it's very important. So Claire, if you have your textbook, you could grab it. Brent, if you have yours, you could grab it. And I want us to go to page 209. Very, very important, page 209. I really want us to just underline a few things, and page 209 is one of those pages. So it talks about the force field analysis. And it says in page 209, two tools are particularly useful in helping change leaders to understand the forces. Because when we're going to have change, there are going to be forces that are pushing against and supporting the change. And I'm sure we see that. When we are trying to make change in organization, we get to see how the forces come against, right? We get to see the power. Who has the power? Is there a shift in power? Sometimes the person who is leading the change. It's funny. I was in a meeting today, Claire. I was in a meeting today, and we were talking about, no joke, some change process in a particular area. I don't want to say too much. And we were having some really beautiful, critical questions about the change process, our expectations. Good afternoon, Lindsay, I see you. And we're getting into those conversations. And you know what came up in the conversation? The fact that so much of the things that we are asking about, none of us are in the position of power to impact those changes. So, we had something that we are going to make some changes. We're definitely doing that. But at that particular conversation, we start to recognize, we made a joke that some of these changes way above our pay grade level, or way above our title. And so it's important to understand, when you're talking about change, where the power lies within change. So we're going to talk about the power analysis. But before that, I want to get into the force field analysis. And of course, you saw that I uploaded 2 samples Every single offering, I ask a number of persons for samples. This semester, of course, I'm going to ask a few of you as well for samples. But you saw the idea. So the force field analysis, it's a process of identifying, not just identifying, but and analyzing the driving and the restraining sources impacting organizational object. And that's why you see that most persons use a table. I always encourage everybody to use the table. So yes, if your question is, Dr. Campbell, Dr. ABC, should we use the table to do it? I will say yes, yes, yes. Because it gives you that real good visual of the change proposal, the forces for the change, and the forces against the change. And as you look at the samples, you will see what those persons' change proposal is, the creation of an EDI task force at the local level within the division of engineering. That is a change proposal. It's very clear. I don't have to search and figure out, okay, what are you trying to do? Because in some person's initial proposal, it was unclear. But that is okay. Many times in the initial proposal, it is unclear. As a matter of fact, I must share this with you, that every single year, including this year, I will have at least 2 to 3 students who will say to me, after they have finished with the change proposal, the non-graded part, they'll write me and say, can I change my initial idea? Because after you start thinking about it, you realize, oh, well, that was a quick idea, but I can't follow through with it. And if some of you may have noticed in your feedback, I talk about the ability to follow through. But any change proposal you have, you will follow through, because you need to think about it. So this one, clearly there are some thoughts. And I use this EDI task force for a reason, because I work in EDI as well. And you look at one of the things against it, and I see the funding, I see the budget, when I see attitudes, I was like, yeah. When I saw the institutional and structural systematic barriers can take a long time, and thus we must be prepared to work for a long haul, I said yes. So I want you to really think about this. And maybe even when you're doing it, ask your peers, ask your friends at work. You're at work, said you can say, what are some of the things you think? I have this great idea that I'm doing an assignment. What are some of the things you think would be like, well, you need to really think about this, because that's not going to happen because of this. Or, wow, what a great idea. I think it would work because of this, or you can do this. So think about those things as you think about it. And of course, another example, so you have those already, and you see it. This one for me is not my favorite. It's a good sample, but not my favorite. And I know Claire, you're looking at me and saying, well, Dr. ABC, what is your favorite? This one is my favorite. Why, Claire? Because, why Brent? Why Lindsay? Because it has given me a lot more information. So I get it. If you don't want your table to be too cumbersome, you may want to do this, and then, some good explanation, which was clear there. There was some good explanation. But I also love when the table itself, you could read the table and you could walk away with so much information from the table. So I want us to think about that. Good practice, very good practice, very good practice. Before I get into it, I want to go back to the assignment. And it says here, what are the forces for and against? And then it says something which I always underline. It says, consider ways in which the driving and restraining forces could be increased or decreased. And I've seen in equity work where through learning and workshops, people's awareness was increased, and the awareness impacted their level of reception, their level of their mindset. I see where change of mindset happened because of increased awareness. So think about the good and the bad, the forces increase. You're really doing that kind of analysis of, if I do this, what are some of the outcomes? You start to think about the outcome already. What new forces could be created? This is a big one to think about. It's a big one to think about. And I'm going to tell you why. So often when we do a change, we have, and I'm going to go there, we have the forces, we have the ideas, we have those things. But all too often what happens is that when we start the change, things start to come up. And we never thought about that. And I can tell you, as someone who have been a change process before, things happen I never thought about. You know, you move something, you thought, well, I never thought that people liked that, because sometimes, you know, you didn't get that feeling. But did you do any kind of analysis, any kind of data gathering, any kind of community survey to find out? So always think about what things can happen when the change happen. And many times, you know, increased resistance happen. You know, people come up with great changes sometimes, Claire, and people realize, oh, they said we wasn't going to lose our jobs, but then they use the word, well, we're not terminating, really. Nobody's losing their job. I remember a couple of years ago, I'm sure you remember, the couple of years ago, we were using the popular word right sizing. You see my expression, right? The rights, everybody, it was right sizing. People were losing their jobs, but people were right sizing, and all of a sudden it became a increase changes, resistance, right? It also, I have seen another change. I won't tell you, but I was a part of an organization, and when they started to do the change, and it did all the restraining and the encouraging forces, some of the new forces that created, one of the forces was that people were not only just losing their jobs, but because they changed so much of the leadership, people start feeling a level of instability, with people feeling a sense of belonging, and ownership really swept the organization, because they changed so many of the leaders, the people that they were used to, the steady hands, so to speak. And so think about those. And what are some of the dumb moves? I like this idea. Some of the dumb moves are actions to avoid what, you know, which could increase resistance. And this kind of assignment is where you go to town with some of these things, right? It's two-page max. So no, we don't want a whole story. 2-page max, right? Because the table, I always say, a good, nice, good, juicy table take up 1 page. And then you have another page to, you know, to maybe have some additional conversation there, right? So think about that as you're doing this work. But I want to get back to reading something else. So on the same page 209, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute, and then I come back. So on the same page 209, it says the force field, and I'm reading the last paragraph. The force field analysis identify forces for and against. We know that. In situations that are stable or in an equilibrium, the forces for change, driving forces, and the forces opposing change, restraining forces, are balanced. Now, do not feel then that you need to balance those things. Because I know that sometimes people feel like, sometimes the balance will just not be created because of the kinds of change you're doing. So continue to create change. The balance must be upset by adding new pressures for change. So we don't definitely need a balance. You need to upset the balance, increasing the strength of some or all the pressures for, because you want the change. If you have a balance, that's quite concerning. Like, I have 5 arguments for and 5 arguments against. You have to work up the change in a way, create ideas, brainstorm, go deep into your resources to find out how can I increase the driving forces. Because at the end of the day, you want the change to happen. And that is why of all the change, and I'm going to get it in another video I'm going to create for you all, but of all the change models that I have done, there are many change models. You see them there, of course. I like John Cutter's model. I use John Cutter in my lecture. I'm sure there's a video on my YouTube page. I'm sure I could find one to share with you all. But I love that model. And it's there, of course, the Kurt Lewin model is good. I love the Gentile model, but I love John Cutter's model. Because why I love John Cutter's model so much, and let me see if I could find the graphic of that. Why I think I love John Cutter's model so much, I like the idea that when he's making the need for the change, the rationale for the change, right? When you are making the urgency, that's the word I want. That's the word I want. Let me go to that so we can have a look at it while I say that. For me, I like that idea. And I like John Cutter's idea here, as I said, I highlight, because in the steps, in his change model, there are 8 steps. But the first one for me is creating the urgency. And I believe at the stage, welcome Naomi, good to see you. When we get into the urgency, I believe that is also where you are creating, you are establishing, you have already kind of think about some of the ways in which you want to sell, right? Sell the change, the urgency for the change. You're not just changing for change's sake. So that's why the urgency is so important. You need to explain to people why. Be honest with you. Some of the strongest proposal that I had within the group and the group before as well is those who clearly was clearly able to articulate why I need to change this. It wasn't just something new. So I've seen, let me be clear, persons who are listening to me, because everybody's going to listen to the video, I have seen somebody coming up with like, oh, I'm going to do this reading program. But what is the urgency to the reading program? Is it that the reading, people are failing the reading? Or because if I'm a teacher and staff and I'm going to be, oh, here comes Miss Claire. She just want to make a new reading program. She's going to be the new superintendent. Here's what she's going to do. So you just changing for change's sake. And then Naomi's in charge of the math department. And Naomi come up with this great idea. She's going to let everybody do this idea. What is the urgency for it? Is it just Naomi's idea? Naomi, see a pick and come in the room, right? Is it just Naomi's idea, or can you share with me clearly why this is important? I'm on a thesis committee right now, and the person is talking about Black students in grade 8 maths, and clearly there was such a solid case for math success and the strategy that this person want to use, and because they shared a lot about math anxiety in students, math anxiety and lack of resources in a particular set of students, math anxiety, lack of resources and lack of support in a particular group of students in a particular geographical area. So the clarity on why we're going to do this change was there. The urgency of the change was there. And as I'm talking about that, John Cutter normally does, you normally see this one on the right. The one over the right, you normally see this a lot. More and more, I'm liking this one, the circular one, for a reason. The arrows. Because the idea to feel like change has to follow this structure, it's not going to happen. So yeah, it's not going to happen. Sometimes you reach stage 4 and you have to go back and spend some time straightening step 3. Because if you notice in step 3 here, where we're at is create a vision for the change. We're not using John Cutter's model, so we didn't talk about the coalition and that kind of thing, but those things are going to be automatic. You realize they're automatic. But if you don't have a clear vision, see where the big mistake happens a lot, Claire? Number 4. There's a lot of people with a lot of great ideas, but they cannot tell you what it is. Or if they explain it, the only person who understands it, it's them. Right? Not everybody can deliver the message. So here is my take on that. The more, watch me carefully, the more you are clear on these things, the more you're able to deliver your message. Because when you go into these change meeting, they're going to say, well, tell us the benefit. Tell us why this is important. Tell us the reason why. Give us the statistics, give us the data, how it's going to impact the organization. What are the benefits? I will never forget. I have done so much equity work. And when I did a work about belonging for a particular business organization, because I have 90% of my speech and my keynotes and my work is in schools and school boards, head office, colleges, universities. But I do work in banks and other places as well. And this particular group, they wanted me to speak to the biggest people, the top people, top, boardroom style. And I remember the money person, you know it go already. They're going to ask you for a return on investment. They're going to ask you, tell me how, if we spend investing in this equity, belonging stuff, how it will benefit. And I'd be honest, I do not sell that kind of conversation, because I always say, to create an equitable, inclusive environment, anybody understand that if people are happy, they're included, they're happy, they are safe, they feel a sense of belonging, they will produce. That's just it. So I'm not going to exert extra energy and scientists trying to sell that. But I went back to the organization for another presentation, and I sat down by myself, and I was very intentional that I wanted to spend some time just to do some research and do some intentional work, not to prove anything, but just to make my argument even stronger, because I don't need to do it, but I wanted to do it, to give a reason to this organization, to show them the link between belonging and productivity, belonging and worker productivity. And I must tell you, when I was finished, the money woman, the head of finance, was right there, and she was quite happy, because I made it clear. I know we know, but it's good to articulate it. I made it clear. If people feel a sense of belonging, this is why people come to work and they work and they don't check the clock, and they don't always looking at, is it 5 minutes of 4 so I can get to go, because they want to be there. And that's why people volunteer for committee. You have some organizations where people volunteer for almost every committee, and other organizations where people don't want to extend themselves beyond their job description because they do not feel a sense of belonging. So it's very important to think about the forces. So we leave it as at that for now. And then what I want us to look at is the power analysis. So let's get into the power analysis, and that is let's read on page 200. So the forces go back to 210 and 211. They have, before I go to the power, there are 3 things that I want you all to read, page 210 to page 211. Those 3, to do a force analysis, it says, number 1, identify the forces acting in a situation and estimate their strength. Number 2, understand how the forces might be altered to produce a more hospitable climate. So yeah, these here on the right, the forces against, ask yourself, how can some of these be altered? And then look beyond the immediate impact and identify ways to increase your support of the resistance and reduce resistance. So those 3 things on page 210 to page 211, please underline those, please read those. They are going to come up even more handy when you do the final paper, when you put everything together, because that's when you're going to put on some extra flesh on the assignment. We give you 2 page, but we're going to put some extra flesh on it for the final paper. Last thing before we wrap up, because I don't want the recordings to be too long. The last thing before we wrap up would be the power. Take a look at the types of power on page 201. The positional power, that's my story talking about Claire today. The network power, the knowledge power, and personality power. And don't ever underestimate personality power. Don't you ever underestimate that. Persons with strong personality power can do the buy-in. That's why some persons, they said some people said they can sell you, what they said? They can sell an Eskimo ice. Right? That they talk about that, right? Or sell sand at the beach. Like, I'm sure you heard that one. Somebody selling sand at the beach, right? Because of their level of persuasion, they get the buy-in. And there are people with that natural gift of getting the buy-in. So ask yourself that. So, individual power. And let me stop sharing again so I could get into this a little bit. So, individual power. And that is on page 200. But I'm going to read the top. Before we go to do it, the second paragraph, page 200, second paragraph. In fact, the power to do things in organizations is critical to achieving change. The power to do things in an organization is critical to achieving change. I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to actually type out this sentence and send it to the people in the meeting I was with today, Claire. Because this was a conversation we were having today at the University of Toronto in a meeting, in a particular meeting I was having, when we were talking about the things that we really want to change. And some of us really came to the conclusion that so many things that we see that needs to be changed, and we even have some ideas, but we are saying this is above our pay grade. This is above our position level. This is above our title. And so what we have decided to do is to take these very ideas and conversations we had today and take them to a higher level. I made it clear there's about 10 people above me. We need to take it up. So in fact, as it says, second paragraph on page 200, the power to do things in organization is critical to achieving change. Power is a crucial resource used by change agents to influence the actions and reactions, thus again, the support or the resistance of others. The knowledge of a change agent asks multiple power-related questions, such as, what power do I have and what are the sources of my power? Am I authorized to do it by virtue of my title and position? So I want us to really give that some thought as we are getting into the assignment for the next one that is due November the 5th. It's going to come quick. It's going to move fast. Ask yourself, as you think about that, what are those power, right? And let me get back to the last part, and then we're going to wrap up with, and then I can stop sharing and then I can answer a few questions from you all. It says there, reflection of the power. So there's a power activity for you to do. It's very good. This activity is very good. Notice the graphic. What source of power do you have? Your style, the comfort zone, choice of tactics, context. And then you're going to realize how much that is going to help you to be very clear on your assignment. Based on the reflective activity, that's the one at the top we just talked about, assessing power, consider the initiation of change in the organization that you have selected. What are the types of power that influence change? What are the key sources of power in the organization that you can address in order to initiate change? And how can coalitions help with change? 3 questions, 2 pages. Think about that. Think about that. And the answers are very clear here. And people have different style in which they do it. Think about the style that you want to do to present that. As I said, tables and graphics are always welcome when it comes to this kind of work. So that's it. Do we have any questions that we want to ask on camera quickly so we can benefit the entire class? And then we'll stop the video and then I'll stay back for another 5 minutes to answer any questions totally off camera with all of us together. So are there any questions particular to the last 2 assignment or to this one coming up on the 5th, where we're doing the change, the power analysis, and of course the force field analysis? Any questions on any of those? No, we're good. We're good. We're good. Yeah. Just keep doing. It's a flow. It's a flow. It's a flow. And it feels good to have you all here with me doing that. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to close the recording, and then I'm going to allow us an opportunity to share a little bit. All right. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening to this recording. As I said before, read those. I mean, you read the entire chapter. Okay, but I pick up those pages that in case you don't have the time to read the entire thing, which you should, you make sure you look at those things because they're going to guide you in. And as you're going, let me just say this very, very important. As you're doing the work, please remember that you are going to make some changes as well as you do it. So one of my famous questions I get last year and the year before was, Dr. ABC, we have done the first assignment, vision. We have done the force, we have done the power. And then you go to the next assignment and you go, I want to make some changes to the past ones. Am I allowed? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because as you're going to go along, you're going to go, those 5 ideas I gave into the force field, I want to change it. I want to add 2 more. I want to take out 1. You can do all of that. Because when they get the final paper, you're going to be able to make some adjustments. So don't feel like you have to just go and nothing can be changed. That would be almost hypocritical to the assignment, right? That would be almost hypocritical to the assignment. So yes, you can go back and adjust your vision statement 2-3 weeks from now. When you do that, you because you have grown, learned, you have seen some stuff, you've had some talking, you come across something else in the reading, and you go, I wish I could adjust my vision statement. Of course you can. You adjust it for the final paper, right? No, don't adjust and send it to me to look at it again. You adjust it for the final paper, okay? So that is it for this one, and I'm going to stop the recording, and we'll talk some more about the next assignment.